Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the movie Lockdown on HBO Max. So, quick note, we are going into spoiler territory here. So, if you haven't seen the movie and you want to kind of like not have it spoiled for you, go watch the movie, then come back and watch our segment. But let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So, this movie was recommended to me by you, Cheryl. I had no idea what the movie was going to be about, other than it was a basically a quarantine movie. I didn't realize it was the quarantine movie at all.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize that either. I so when I saw the trailer, I thought it was gonna be a heist movie. I thought it was gonna be
Kind of is.
yeah, it kind of is, but it also really isn't.
Mhm.
um, and I thought it was gonna have the kind of like relationship that that's very similar to Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Angelina and Jolie and Brad Pitt.
Mhm.
But it didn't. There's definitely a Mr. and Mrs. relationship, but it's definitely not the same. And I guess like it was basically a character film. Like it really was
Yeah.
entirely a character film taking place in current times because, like you said, it's actually taking place during the COVID pandemic. And because of that, I had a huge problem with the number of people not wearing a mask.
Yo, yo, exactly. I'm watching this movie and they're indoors and they're walking by people, and I'm like, yo, bruh, you need a mask. You need a mask. All you people are like, you guys are stopping and you're putting on your mask. But then all of a sudden, when you get around other people who you don't know, you're all of a
You
sudden
take
taking
it
your mask
off.
off again. And I'm like, that's not how this works. This is fiction. I can't deal with this movie.
I just, yeah, I mean, maybe it was like taken place at the very very beginning of the pandemic when like wearing a mask wasn't really quite a thing yet, and like
Hmm.
like now it's normal. Now it's like whenever you see someone outside and they're not wearing a mask, then it's like, whoa, that person is weird. But I remember like at the beginning of the pandemic, it was still like people just weren't outside, and if they were outside they didn't necessarily have masks. Remember there's a mask shortage too, so
Right. Right.
maybe it was like towards the beginning because no one's in the
Yeah.
street and stuff. But
I
I don't
do think it was near the beginning because they talk about being on in quarantine for 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
as if it's a new thing. And I remember when we first heard that we were going to be in quarantine, we all thought that it wasn't going to last that long, and that's how it seems like these people feel. So I think that as far as the timeline of the movie is concerned, it's supposed to be taking place in the beginning of the whole like pandemic scenario. It just really surprised me to see that it for like one, I was like, wow, they made a whole pandemic movie during the pandemic. And for me that felt a little odd because we're still in it.
Mhm.
So I was like, there can't really be any real ending to this film, right? Because right now we're still living it. We haven't seen the ending in real life. So that set me a little bit on like a kind of, I guess, like on the wrong footing when it came to the movie at first. I don't know. Did that was that a problem for you at all?
Not really. I think I was just kind of more questioning why they decided to choose to have the movie take place during quarantine. And I thought
Mm,
maybe it's because we are still in it that it gives them the opportunity to have a smaller cast and or have a cast that is normal sized but have more of them quarantined away from each other so they can just have like a Zoom video like they did a lot. So I thought that partially was an excuse, but then it also, going back to knowing now that it's a character film kind of makes sense because it puts them somewhat in a box to
Yeah.
explore this relationship and this dynamic that they have between themselves and the journey that they take into like rekindling the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bottle film, kind of, because most of the time when you have a bottle film or a bottle episode of a television show, it only takes place in one place and it doesn't move from there. But this film, they actually do leave the place that they're staying at. The thing that gets me is that they actually do when they go on the heist. That's when it feels like a bigger movie, though, because there's a lot more people. There's security guards, there's extras and stuff like that, and that's when the movie kind of changed as far as like being just only with these. It stopped feeling like it was such a small film at that point for me.
Yeah. I definitely think it just really bothered me, especially knowing that we're still in a pandemic and they had all those people on set with no mask on. I'm sure everyone had to get tested and stuff, but like we're still in a pandemic. But props to them for making the movie.
Yeah,
I think it's great that I mean sort of great that they're actually getting work out there and creating new content which a lot of people are very hungry for. So that's pretty cool. I'm counting on them to have done it safely as safely as possible.
Yeah, I mean these movies are definitely trying to do their best. We all know what's been happening with like Mission Impossible and that whole blow up with Tom Cruise and stuff. So, it sounds like movies are trying to take it seriously and do the best that they can. Um, One thing, so not knowing anything about the movie and I didn't even watch a trailer, I wasn't sure if what I was going to be watching was going to be like a hardcore drama or not. So I was very surprised to find out that it was a comedy, and like the comedy in this movie actually worked for me. Like I found myself legit laughing at various scenes. Like I think the first one that I remember laughing at was when Anne Hathaway's character was talking to the woman on Skype, and then the woman talks about how they had a relationship with each other at one point, and then says "I love you" before she gets off the phone, and Anne Hathaway was like, "Wait, what now?" And then it just cuts off, and I was like, "Okay, this is a comedy. I see what the humor is."
Yeah, it's a dramedy, I would say. And
Yes,
those are
comedy.
pretty, yeah, I like those cuz it allows us to have the drama that we like to see, but keep it light enough so that we can keep watching it without like feeling crappy about life.
I mean, it's even because like those movies also try to they make the drama funny when she has to fire the group of people. The Zoom call starts and the guy's like, "Oh look, I have a tie." She's like, "Oh no, you have a tie." And then you see the other guy sitting there and his kids running around, and she's like, "Oh no." And then she's talking to the other woman, and the woman's like, "Oh, I'm in Sweden," and she's like, "Wait, Sweden? Wait, what?" Okay. And then she feels a little awkward, and you're like, okay, what's about to happen? And then you realize that she's firing everybody, and it's like, oh no, this is so bad for you.
That
I'm
really
so
sucks.
sorry. So, but I really liked her character, and I liked how they developed her as someone who just kind of hates her job and is really ready to just stick it to the man because of she's become something that she hates. So, like, her character arc, I thought was very interesting, and by the point that the diamond plot started to develop in the movie, about like I guess want to say like maybe a little bit more than halfway in, that's when I found myself actually getting more invested into the movie. Whereas before, I kind of was just like, okay, we're here. These characters are cool. Like Chiwetel Ejiofor's character is weird, but it is what it is. Ben Stiller's in the movie. Awesome.
Well, I thought it was a heist movie, but it wasn't. And then like halfway through the movie, I was like, when are they gonna do the heist? And then like then we find out that it's kind of like anti-heist movie because they're trying to prevent a heist, but then they turn it into a heist at the last minute.
I guess that's true. I didn't realize that because I guess technically because it's going to a drug lord or whatever,
Mhm.
or a warlord. So that's the thing. That's the whole reason that they even do it in the first place. So I guess it is kind of. I never thought about it like that. Like that is an anti-heist movie. That's interesting.
I guess like there were some things that I liked, even though it wasn't what I thought it was. I think
Hmm.
I kind of like once I started to get the idea, like okay, this is gonna be a character film. I just kind of
Hmm.
like accepted it. Was just waiting for it to get interesting, I guess. But it
Yeah.
not to say that it wasn't interesting. It just wasn't what I expected. But I did appreciate the little things.
I caught it.
uh, but I thought that it kind of hit home a little bit with all the Zoom meetings because it's very real to what a lot of people have to do these for this whole past year. And I thought it was really funny how she was getting all dressed up and everything. She had like full makeup, her hair was really nice and everything, but she had pajamas on her bottom half. And I guilty for
Yep.
doing that for meetings for my office and stuff. So it just felt relatable because it's not just those things, but it's also just the dynamic that you have with the people that you live with. And it's not just the people that you live with, it's the people that you have in your life. So,
Right.
um
Yeah. No, I thought that was like I I thought it was a nice little touch that they didn't have to do that, but they did do, which was making it so that the audio on the zooms would cut out because this is a professional movie, so they could have had clean audio if they wanted to, but they made sure that they replicated that feeling of being on a Zoom call where the audio cuts out or it feels like echoey or the video freezes or even the moments where you're saying something but what you're saying can't be heard, so the other person keeps talking, so then you end up talking over each other. So those are all like nice little moments that allowed it to feel a little bit real, and in that way it's one of those things of like, hey, we're in on the joke because we've all had to do that ourselves, so we know exactly what that feels like.
mhm. Yeah. But as far as the relationship, I think that is very relatable for a lot of couples out there who have to experience that, not just like, you know, outside of the pandemic, because people go through stuff like that when it's not
Hmm.
pandemic time, but COVID definitely put a lot of couples in a different type of situation where like you're either apart or you're together and you're having trouble being together all the time because everyone needs space. So,
Yeah, I think that if there was two themes that I would attribute to this movie, those two themes were that relationships don't work in lockdown and art is dead because no one knows who Edgar Allan Poe is. So,
well, I mean, so that was pretty funny, but then it was I forgot who made the point that nobody knows who he is because they're in London and he's an American poet.
American.
And I was like, do I know any British writers? And then I was like, Tolkien?
You I think you'd be surprised.
Oh,
You know a
J.K.
few.
Rowling.
Yes, J.K. Rowling as well. Um Yes, and oh my gosh, now my brain is flubbing. But there's a few because you also know the oh my gosh, hold on. I'm gonna say it in a second. But also, quick side note, did you notice the name of the hedgehog? Because they named the hedgehog in this movie.
Oh, they did? Is it Sonic?
It is Sonic.
Yay! I didn't
He's
know they named it, but when I saw him, like I think it was the first scene, I was like, "Hey, it's Sonic."
Mhm. Right. So no, because like the whole thing like in the credits is an order of appearance, and so the hedgehog's the first one on the credits, and it's Sonic, and I was like, of course it is.
Nice. Oh, so they don't actually say it; they just named it for the
Yeah,
nice.
for the credits. But also yes, but I was gonna say you also know who Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is. That's the writer of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, I mean, I know Sherlock Holmes, but I never was like, "Oh, I know who wrote this."
Point is that I feel like also you learn about Edgar Allan Poe in school, but that was one of those moments of okay, this is the comedy part of things where you kind of have to suspend disbelief to allow yourself to believe that no one that this man comes into contact with would dare question his name being actually Edgar Allan Poe.
I was like, why not just, you know, Edgar Poe? Like, why did they have to?
Oh, because his coworker's a jerk. His coworker
No,
set
but
him up.
I mean, like when they're like, checking in
Oh,
security and
they
stuff,
don't
just be
have to
like,
say the full
oh yeah,
name.
just be like, oh, this is Edgar Poe.
Yeah, that's true. You don't need to say the whole name, but but that part's the comedy, so that's why
Yeah,
they do it. So they
it's for
just
the
do it
joke.
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they could. You're right. They could have easily just said, "Oh yeah, this is Edgar A. Poe or Edgar Poe."
yeah.
They don't have to say the full. I didn't even think about that in the moment. That's hilarious.
By the
Oh man,
way, I love Ben Kingsley.
Kingsley. We are going to pray every time before we have a meeting. And then we're going to have a conversation about why I have if Edgar Allan Poe is so famous, why haven't I heard of him? Hey, has anyone heard of Edgar Allan Poe? You're in a room by yourself. I know you're in a room by yourself because everyone's working from home. No one has heard of him.
Mhm.
Ben
Yeah.
Kingsley is amazing in this movie.
Yeah, he was really funny in this. He's probably my favorite character in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I was surprised by the star cast that they had because, like,
um,
Chiwetel Ejiofor and Anne Hathaway was enough, but then they even brought like Dule Hill playing
Ben
his half brother,
Stiller.
Ben
Yeah,
Stiller.
and then
Like,
I think is her name Mindy? She's
oh yeah, yeah, she was in here too as a guest star.
yeah. So that was
And
pretty cool. It's just like I felt like every time there was a Zoom meeting, I was like surprised, like, oh hey, it's that person. Oh yeah, it's that person. So
yeah, that was really well done. But I always thought it was just funny that whenever you saw these relationships that popped up or that were they had these moments where they'd say like, "Oh, how are you doing? How's your relationship?" And the guy would say, "Oh, me and Anthony figured out that we apparently hate each other." Or with Mindy, she was like, they were saying, "Oh yeah, her relationship went terribly." And then when Anne Hathaway runs into her friend later, and she's like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And the woman's like, "Oh, my girlfriend was apparently stealing from me, so you know." And I was just thinking to myself, "Yo, this movie does not want quarantine relationships to work at all." Everyone's just talking about how their relationship is terrible in this movie.
yeah, that's so funny. I don't know about
Mm.
you, but I haven't heard about anyone breaking up during quarantine.
I have. It
Oh,
happens.
that's unfortunate.
Just yeah. I mean, different people living with each other. I mean, I think the divorce rate even like went up during during quarantine, or I think they were saying
Hmm.
like in general breakups
I'm
were going
sure,
up.
yeah. I'm sure of it. I just personally haven't heard anyone have a breakup, so.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Uh, but no, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, and then oh yeah, I had my note down here. Yeah, people in the building should have been wearing masks, which we already talked about. Um, but the whole thing with like their progression towards the end of the movie, did you buy it? Did you buy the fact that the two of them could like kind of re-fall in love with each other?
I think I did only because I figured that would happen because they were so like they were butting heads at the very very beginning. So it's just
Hmm.
kind of like obvious that they're gonna end up getting back together by the end of the movie. Almost.
Right.
I mean, it would have been. I would have been fine if they didn't, and they just decided to like maybe they didn't get back together, but at least come to have a better relationship with each other.
Yeah. No, for sure. I get you there. Um, I think that it could have gone either way for me. If they had ended and they were still like we're going our separate ways, I think I would have been okay.
Mhm.
But I found myself actually being all right with them. I felt like I was going to be upset if they stayed together, but then by the end, I think I liked both the characters so much that the fact that they stayed together just was cool to me because I was like, all right, well at least I get some type of happy ending. Um, because I slowly started liking them more. I think I started off not really liking either of them too much. I thought Ejiofor's character was neurotic and weird, and I thought that Anne Hathaway's character was just like too, I don't know the word, but she came across to me wrong. But by the time when they were planning the heist, and when she's like losing her mind and like try to plan this heist. I thought that scene was so good. Anne Hathaway's such a great actress, and that scene where she's like, "I'm not like, what are you talking about? I'm normal. Why aren't you being normal?" He's like, "You are totally not being normal." No, no, like, I'm not thinking about doing anything. What do you think I'm trying to do? It was really well done.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think that having them, you know, decide together that they will decide in the moment was a cool
Hmm.
play because then it almost feels like, well, we don't know what's gonna happen until we see in the moment when they decide that they're going to rekindle their love.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's a lot of like those I think it's a metaphor in that way, but I also think that some of the other things that's strong about this film are like the little details. For instance, when they get in the elevator and it's like, oh yeah, we had this game that we played where whenever we're in the elevator, we like tell the truth to each other. It's just, it's stuff that's very ancillary and that's people you can easily not care about. But when trying to create realistic characters, like they would have this history, so it's cool to find out about those things in these different moments as they come up, and for them to just be you know, just totally fine with it because for them, it's normal.
Yeah. And the heist definitely gave them something to bond over.
Yes, and I think that's what like was the reason why at the end I was buying it, them staying together, because the act of them doing a heist together and actually having a project that they could work on together seemed like something that would be strong enough to bring them back around to one another again. Because Ejiofor never wanted to leave really in the first place, but for her, you could see how she is kind of transforming herself again because she's choosing to go against the job that she hates, but she's not only choosing to like go against it by like quitting or whatever, she's actively rebelling. And they both were rebels in the past. And so it's kind of them retapping into that and it's rekindling that whole feeling and it's making them both feel alive. And the whole argument for why this movie takes place in quarantine is that without quarantine, that none of this would have happened.
Mhm. Yeah, and definitely putting them in a situation where they have to trust each other builds the relationship even more. I think that really solidified them getting back together. It's just
Hmm.
the very fact that in order for any of it to have worked is they would have had to have full trust in each other. There's no way that they could doubt each other for a heist like that.
Hmm. Absolutely. They have to have each other's backs. I did think it was a little convenient that the guy at the end, the guy who plays, I think he plays Mycroft in the
Mhm.
Sherlock Holmes British show, which I great actor. I forgot. I was surprised to see him in this as well. But when he showed up and then he was just automatically like, "Yeah, I'm on your side. We got this." I was like, "Okay, it's a little too easy." But the
Yeah.
idea is also that they're trying to make it seem like regular people are pulling off this really crazy heist, and when normal people would not be able to do this. But that was the only part where I was like, "Okay, now I'm stretching a little far." Everything else I was buying, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that I was really surprised that she just decided to tell him the exact truth, and then I guess it kind of ruined the whole trust thing because now they're trusting him and they're bringing this
Mm.
third guy in to their circle of trust that we have no reason to feel like we should trust him, and we just kind
Mhm.
of have to. The other thing that bothered me was that when they finally like left with the diamond, they just rode
Mhm.
away together, and I was like, I thought the whole way for them to get away with it without any questions being asked is to have him drive the truck with the fake diamond to the airport to be delivered to New York, but he never does that. He just rides away on the bike with her.
They do imply that it happens because when they're riding away on their bike, they're riding to the airport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they don't take the van like they should have because that's also dumb. Is that they're not supposed to know each other. So if anybody looks outside, they can see them both getting on the motorcycle together. But I think
Mhm.
at that point they were just trying to get away. But yeah, they do imply that they're taking it to the airport because you see them driving to the air. The airport's like the last shot at in night on the over the highway before it fades out.
Mhm. And no one's like, why is the van still here? Or where is the company van?
Right? Exactly. So that's a little on the odd side as well. But I mean, overall I still like found myself enjoying the movie more than I thought that I was going to. Well, I didn't know anything about it, but once I started figuring out what the movie was going to be about, it did surprise me pleasantly. So I do have to say that thing at the end still just kind of like bothered me about the heist. But you know, it's a small issue over an overall just like it's supposed to be just a fun little movie. So not supposed to think too hard about it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely have no real strong feelings towards this movie.
Hmm.
I kind of feel like okay, I watched it and it wasn't terrible, and but I'm not gonna. It's another one of those where I'm not gonna be like, oh, you should watch this. Watch it if
Yeah.
you feel like it.
Yep. I think I 100% agree. It's there. It exists. If something you can put on if you want to see these actors, there are some really good actors in this movie, and Ejiofor and Hathaway are both great. So you want to see them in a movie together, go ahead and check it out. But other than that, you know, it's okay if you miss it.
It's a lot of dialogue, pretty much.
Basically, character
Yeah.
piece. So it's gotta be. But I think that's about it for me. Is there anything else you wanted to add for this?
No, I'm good.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and call it there. So, but did you guys see the movie? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, go ahead and leave us a comment below. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. But even if you don't, though, I've been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, we'll see you next time.